The last penny ever was just minted. It was costing the US government $56 million a year in losses to make the penny. So we will be discontinuing the penny, and my guess is we are going to be discontinuing future other coins, the nickel, dimes, quarters. There's gonna be no point because the purchasing power of coins is just gonna be worthless. And the other day, I was in line at a coffee shop and there was a bright new shiny penny on the ground. And you know what? I didn't even bother wanting to pick it up because it's not worth anything. So these are just byproducts of inflation, right? And then it's gonna be the nickel, then it's gonna be the dime, or there's gonna be no use for these coins. And what happens after all the coins are gone? And inflation keeps ripping. Paper currency becomes obsolete. You look at Venezuela and Yugoslavia, countries where the currency has collapsed. They say at a certain date, all this currency is worthless and you need to get the new currency, and they'll add a zero, whatever. It goes from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. And they keep reintroducing more, and if you don't swap it out in time, it's worthless. Or spend it, and then it's trash on the street. So eventually what they're going to do is, we're in this digital age now, but there's just not going to be any paper currency going forward. Everything will be digital. You're just going to lose money in real time digitally on inflation. So yeah, man, that whole thing, I saw the penny on the ground. I'm like, it always used to be like good luck kind of, you pick it, and I'm like, it's not worth anything. What am I going to do with a penny? Soon you're going to see a quarter. You're not going to even want to pick it up. Maybe even $1, a couple dollars. This is inflation. It's not going anywhere. So we have that. And then today I'm watching CNBC. The main topic on there was the AI bubble. And yeah, we got a bubble in the AI. We have a bubble in everything. So what I was saying was, like, they're talking about one little bubble. Stock market bubble, real estate bubble. We have bubble, car bubble. Everything is a bubble. We are in the middle of the everything bubble. And hopefully we can extend and pretend, because when this bubble pops, it is going to be biblical. It is going to be beyond people's imagination how bad things are going to get in this country and the world. Because the US dollar is used in, 80% of all global trade. All their currencies are based off the dollar. So when the dollar goes, it's not going to be this like isolated event. Like, you think the Mexico peso is just going to be doing great when the dollar goes and the peso is pegged to the dollar? No, everything's going to go down. We're going to have a worldwide economic financial disaster on a scale that's never been done before. Because we've never had a global economy so interconnected and using the same currency. Where previous disasters in economies were isolated to that country or that region, this could be the first just global. I mean, the Great Financial Crisis was pretty global. No matter where you were on the planet, things went south. And with the dollar, global trade, the internet, this could be the big one. And Bitcoin's kind of the only thing to replace the dollar. The Chinese have never internationalized their currency. Maybe they're lying in wait with a gold-backed stablecoin. And they launched that. They're like, hey, this coin's backed by gold, and let's do international trade in this. China knows if they launch this coin, it's World War III. So I think China is just accumulating gold, letting the U.S. shoot itself in the foot, let us tear ourselves apart from the inside. And when the time's right, either we attack them, or whatever, they launch this gold-backed currency. it could be an economic Pearl Harbor because not everyone's aligned with the United States and people are looking for an alternate. I think Bitcoin's the alternate, but say you got Bitcoin and the Chinese launch a gold-backed currency, the US dollar is going to have a lot of competition. And when that happens, why it could be an economic Pearl Harbor? Because there's just trillions of dollars in funny money moving all around the planet. And then people are like, hey, I don't want to hold these. I'm losing value on it. And all of a sudden these dollars start coming home. And then it floods the U.S. economy with dollars. And then your purchasing power collapses. And what would also happen, why this could be so accelerated, is the Chinese, if this happened, also would not be shipping us goods. All of our goods come from China. All the rare earth minerals to manufacture anything, even if we have a manufacturer here, the materials are probably coming from China. And they stopped shipping us. And it would be similar to like COVID, right? During COVID, everyone got free checks in the mail and everyone had money, but there's all this money chasing too few goods. So everyone wanted an extra refrigerator for their garage. Refrigerators went through the roof. All these things that everyone actually wanted went crazy because everyone had money and everyone was chasing the same products. So I think we might have a short-term deflationary crash, but at the end of the day, they're sending everyone a $2,000 tariff refund. Pretty soon that $2,000 is going to be monthly. It's going to be UBI. And everyone's going to have money. But what's your money going to buy? Because everyone's going to want to purchase goods. And I think a lot of this money is going to flow into Bitcoin and crypto markets. And obviously people want to get rich, so meme coins. And we're living in unprecedented times. And we've been in this decade-plus bull market run in real estate, stocks, all this stuff. People forgot that they could lose money in these things. And people have been saving their money in stocks and real estate instead of the bank because there's no interest rate. So the government is at fault. The government has forced people to save in assets which are not safe havens and can go down like that. So there's going to be a lot of unhappy people that saved all their money in the stock market, real estate, and then it goes down 50, 60% and they get wiped out. I just saw a stat the other day, like 6% of mortgages are underwater in the US, and things are really good right now. All these people are going to that bought in the last couple of years are going to get wrecked when real estate goes down. And the big shoe to fall in real estate, mark my words, is these private equity companies and publicly traded companies like Homes for Rent America that have bought 50,000 single family homes. So back in 2009, all right, some guy was flipping houses, single family homes. He had 2 or 3 and he went bankrupt and all those houses went on the market. What happens when Homes for Rent America or one of these private equity companies blows up? They have to sell their assets, right? 50,000 plus homes from one company go on the market. They own entire neighborhoods. Everything's going to be for sale. What does that do to the price of property? What does that do to the price of rent? Now, rent's very important because the market has just been turned into this giant Airbnb market where everyone, instead of, I'm locking people in, I'm making, this 30% gain, doing a yearly lease with someone. Now you can get these crazy margins with these daily and weekly Airbnb rentals, which is what most people have opted for. Where I used to live down on the Balboa Peninsula, before Airbnb was all yearly rentals, you had great places to pick. And then the landowners are like, wow, I could make 10x this by doing the Airbnb weekly, daily during the summer. And that's what they did. But the problem is there's also more risk to that. Because if you don't have people showing up to rent, you have zero income. Where you have stable income with the yearly, right? So all those Airbnb people, in an instant, they can have no income. And say some guy's got 30 properties in Southern California and Arizona, there's no income, and then all of a sudden he's underwater, not paying the mortgage on 30 properties. But I feel like a Cassandra, I've been focusing on Bitcoin and making my company, but it's like, who knows when the bubble is going to pop? Like, this has been going on for a while. I thought this thing would have popped a long time ago. Now Trump's trying to come out with a 50-year mortgage, late stage capitalism, 15-year car loan. Cars don't last 15 years. They're trying to make it more affordable with this debt. And these companies that are getting the interest and fees from these loans are loving it. But what happens when everyone stops paying these loans? So eventually, all these loans in the real estate market are bad. So the banks at the end of the day own all the real estate. And they don't have enough money. These banks are liquid now. We saw it with Silicon Valley Bank. Just bank we never even heard of. Boom. Gone. Huge companies, payroll, everything gone. So I think the U.S. government, they're going to guarantee all deposits. Not just $250,000. They'll guarantee all deposits like they did with Silicon Valley Bank to stop the next banking crisis. But then they're backstopping trillions of dollars in losses. And essentially the banks own all the real estate, right? So I think they will just nationalize the banks, and we're just kind of like a Federal Reserve banks, and then they're just going to give people payments to their app. You can also steal the economy. So like the U.S. government can hand out $2,000, but like you have to go spend this at restaurants the next 30 days. And after 30 days, it's invalid. So you can actually steal the economy and boost certain sectors. But again, that's not a free market. It's not sustainable. So, and we have this quasi system right now where it's socialism for the rich, capitalism for the poor. But when this thing blows up, you're going to get 100 Mondanis, socialists, communists, saying, hey, the system didn't work, you got screwed, vote for me. They'll get voted in. They'll put even more fuel on the fire in the next economic disaster with price controls, price fixing, all this stuff. That is really the beginning of the end, and I've said it a bunch of times. When price controls come, that is one of your last warning signs before get the hell out of Dodge. Because that's when the system starts breaking down. When companies can't make a profit, sell things for certain prices, things are going to go very badly. You look at, communist Russia, price controls and how bad it was. And the other thing that's scary is like in a rational person's mind, they think that, all right, we're going to get a socialist or communist in, and then the policies aren't going to work. So we'll reverse course or we'll vote for capitalism. But I was watching some videos on the Soviet Union. Obviously, it was a dictatorship. It wasn't a democracy. But all their policies were failing epically. Nothing was working. People were starving. Millions of people were starving to death. And then they did a food war on Ukraine, and millions of people died of starvation. But they didn't stop the policies. They just doubled down and killed anyone that opposed them and said, hey, we need to enforce it more. And that could be coming to America, where the policies could be just absolutely complete failure, but we need to tweak it, or we need to do a bigger scale and just keep destroying the economy. And then you have outside forces like Russia or China, which could be helping influence and fund the socialist ideology in the U.S. to have us blow up our system and collapse in on ourselves. China doesn't want to confront the United States. Our military is insane. They want us to implode and break apart. Well, they stay united in our dictatorship with, Russia at their back and take over the world pretty much. And the Chinese have been playing the long game. The United States has been very short term in its thinking. And you have these politicians, which are on these short period of time. They got to get reelected and they want the economy to look good. So we just do what we can to make the economy good in the short term, but it could be bad for the long term. Where you have a dictator in China and Russia, and they can make implementations in the economy that are going to be 20, 30 years down the road, and they don't have to get reelected. So that's kind of the problem right now with the US is no one's got the willpower or balls to do these great long-term things because everyone's just trying to get reelected and look good. Man, we should have raised interest rates a long time ago. We should have raised the age of Social Security. All this stuff to just like make the system solve it. But no one wants to be the unpopular guy that raises the age of Social Security or say, hey, there's not enough money. Like I have an uncle who's like not paid anything into the system and now is getting like more benefits than someone that worked their whole life because he was able to file for something. Like there's no way that like what we're putting in the system is what it's paying out. It's just a huge imbalance. So none of these systems are going to last. And like Trump knows this. I think that's why he's coming out with the 50-year, all this exotic stuff. I think he's just trying to make it survive until he can get out or till we go to the next war. I mean, if you look at it, whenever the currency collapses, like countries go to war. So maybe as things are just like, hey, let's spend unlimited money on the military until the next war comes and we'll have a currency reset. And you could have a currency reset too, where like the dollar and euro go, and then we launch like a coin with them. That's like the Western countries in a coin, and then you're gonna have the East Bloc against us. But all I know is the world is going to be bipolar, not unipolar, which gives investors and people options. Unfortunately, I think the Elizabeth Warrens of the world, of the US, aren't going to want people to have options. So they are going to restrict the amount of money you can withdraw. They're going to restrict the amount of money you can transfer outside the country. They're going to try to keep your company from leaving the country. Forget the country. They're going to try to stop your companies from leaving the state. And one of the crazy things, which will be also the beginning of the end, is when they start taxing unrealized gains. Oh, you have $1 billion valued in the stock and all this stuff, and then no one has that cash. So then they're going to force people to have to sell these things so they can pay the tax, and you're going to get crashes and people hiding their money, and just the whole system is just not going to work. And right now, I mean, look at the system. The rich people and companies don't pay any tax. It's no secret. And it just feels like the little guy is paying all the taxes and like having to file all this stuff and do stuff with a book while the rich are just making up as they go. And it's, oh, if they get caught, they pay a fine. Like these banks are out of control. And the rating agencies, everything is fixed. So another story which I saw was Michael Burry from The Big Short. He has now closed his fund after, I think, losing like 80%. He's been shorting NVIDIA and like AI stocks and has just got obliterated. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's like, you know, the government can be wrong longer than you can be solvent or something like that. They have unlimited money. They're printing so much money. Like, how can you short anything? Michael Burry, also like Jim Chanos, all these guys are right, but like they're wrong in their investment idea. I used to be in that boat. I was right, but you're not going to make any money being right. You have to go with the flow. And I remember Jim Chanos was trying to short Chinese real estate. 100% right. And he said, his famous quote was, the Chinese real estate market is on a treadmill to hell. Totally correct. There's whole entire cities that are empty. But it's the Chinese government. They can print more money, tear those cities down, rebuild them again. They don't want any free market. How do you short that? U.S. real estate starts going down. 50-year loans. COVID hits. Real estate should be crashing. No one's got to pay their mortgage. No one's got to pay their rent. How do you short these markets when the government is controlling the markets? So Bitcoin's the last free market left. Even Bitcoin's manipulated. You have whales dumping. Binance, they see where everyone's positions are, and then they'll liquidate, they'll collude with whales. So it's rough out there, but I don't know. Like, I just look at the price of everything. I don't know how people are surviving right now. It's just too expensive. Cost of living is too expensive. No one can afford a home, start a family. It is out of control. And you're going to have a lot of restless people in the US, Europe, other countries. And when they get the opportunity, they're going to riot and they're going to show their frustration against this current system. So my recommendation is buy as much Bitcoin as you can, get a residency or second passport, and have a ticket out of town. But once you get that done, look at maybe getting an apartment or place somewhere in the Southern Hemisphere where you have your stuff and you can just get on a flight and get out of town. Like I'm looking like Pucón, Southern Chile, Punta del Este, Uruguay, Buenos Aires, Paraguay, maybe even Bolivia, just a place you can get out of town in the middle of nowhere and go to. Because when the banks stop working and the stock market crashes and all your money's stuck in the bank and it's just being devalued pretty much overnight, people are going to come and burn the banks down. People are going to be pissed. Especially the hardworking people. The people that have paid into the system. They've done everything right, paid all the taxes. They are going to go ballistic. You know, unfortunately, the billionaires, they have the money. You can buy passports. These guys got multiple passports. They got a private jet. They will just get on a private jet, fly down to, Uruguay, and be on their mansion down there. And it's just the way the system is. It's never going to be fair. But you're not going to want to be on the ground or in these big cities when the chips fall. And it's tough because, you have to go all around your daily lives, but, all this stuff is, looming around the corner. And especially, for me, the boomers, my parents, the system has completely worked for them at every level. Every step of the way it's worked. So telling them, oh, yeah, you should get a place down here, get these residencies, they just think you're crazy. That's never going to happen. The system's always worked. Where the younger generation, the millennials, Gen Z, they know the system's not working and things aren't right. So you can kind of get a better sense. And imagine the COVID rights, but no banking. 2 weeks, a couple of days, grocery stores are out. It's going to just be chaos again. And I don't know how, you're just going to re-roll out a new currency system. It's going to be chaotic. And then that money translates into this new money. The government owns a lot of banks. It's going to be a mess. And I kind of think they're just going to let this whole thing collapse under Trump. He's going to do his best to stop it. He's going to get free money, do whatever he's got to do. But I think the game plan is the deep state. They're going to let this collapse under Trump. If you look at it, Trump, if you looked up the definition of, capitalist excess, it is Donald Trump. The gold toilets, the billions of dollars, the ego. I think Trump's their perfect candidate. They're going to let the capitalist system collapse under Trump, and then they're going to come out with global currency, communism, all this stuff. Millions of people will probably die in the process. There'll probably be a couple of wars. And they'll blame it on the U.S. capitalist system and roll out this new, better, fairer system and take advantage of the crisis. But it's crazy because, people have been talking about this for years. It's math, right? Everyone knows this is going to happen. There's people way smarter than me in the CIA and the government. And they probably just have this end game and what they're going to bring next. They've known this day is going to come. So it's going to be scary, and I'm I don't know who's behind it. You can go down all these rabbit holes. There's a million conspiracy channels. I don't have the time for that. But what I do have the time for is hey, how can you profit from it? How can you protect yourself? And how can you get out of town? And, pretty simple, buy Bitcoin, get a second residency, start making connections, start networking in the places you want to go to so you have, some friends and people to connect with down there. Back in the day, I kind of was I'm going to stay in the U.S. and fight it out and all these guns. And it's look, everyone in the U.S. is armed to the teeth. You're just going to want to get out of town. You're not going to want to fight over toilet paper. I want to be sipping pina coladas down in Panama somewhere when people are going crazy here. Panama, not perfect. They're also on the dollar. It's kind of a satellite of the U.S., but there's going to be a couple good places, and these places are going to close their borders when refugees from the north try to go south. So that's it for the stream today. I'm going to start trying to do like daily streams. This goes to Kick, Twitch, YouTube, and just comment below. Also, we have editing jobs. I pay 50 cents per clip. If you're good, we raise it to $1. And if you're really good, you can manage some of the Bitcoin Capitalist Instagram and TikTok accounts. So just find my link in the bio and sign up.